When the sun is about to set, Sheriff Boyd walks through a strange town ringing a bell, which tells people it's time to go home. Sarah kicks all the people out of the diner as the jukebox mysteriously turns on. All the locals close their doors and windows and make sure their talismans are on the right places. A bartender tries to wake up Frank, who is too drunk to move and stays there. Once everyone is safe, Boyd enters his office after checking the sign that reads nights without incident, 96. Meanwhile, Frank's daughter Megan is praying in her room when she hears an old woman knocking at the window. She asks to come inside, so Megan says she's not supposed to open the window. The old woman promises to keep it a secret and Megan decides to help her. Her mother Lauren arrives just in time to see Megan open the window and the old woman turns into a horrifying creature to attack them. In the morning, Frank walks back to his house, where a crowd has gathered outside. A furious Boyd slaps Frank and scolds him for not nailing the windows shut to protect his family. Realizing what happened, Frank has a breakdown, but Boyd still drags him upstairs to look at Lauren's and Megan's bodies and their blood everywhere. As Frank cries on the floor, Boyd orders Officer Kenny to lock him up. On his way out, Boyd sees the talisman on the floor. A few miles away from the town, Jim and his family are on a road trip in an RV. Suddenly they find the road blocked by a fallen tree, so they come out to investigate. At that moment a bunch of crows begin flying and squawking at them, so the family gets back in the RV to try to find another road. After driving for a while they get lost and they can't check the GPS because their phones have no reception. Eventually their wandering takes the family to the town and they notice all cars there have flat tires. The locals are wrapping up the funeral and stare at them with wariness. Jim tries asking some questions and everyone ignores him except for Boyd, who tells him they only have to follow the road to find the highway. The family leaves in their car, but following the road just takes them back to the town over and over again. Refusing to give up, the family takes the road again and Jim makes a U-turn to head in the opposite only to encounter a speeding car. Jim moves the RV away just in time, but this sends it down a hill and everyone gets stuck in the debris. The other car crashes into a tree and the driver Toby come out to throw up. Then he runs down the road and finds Boyd and Kenny putting down a spike strip, so he asks for help. Before rushing to the accident, Boyd orders Kenny to take Toby to the town's clinic. At the accident site, Boyd finds Toby's friend Jade and cuffs him to his car because he's clearly out of it. Then Boyd finds the RV and helps Jim and his daughter Julie get out. However, the mother Tabitha is knocked out and the leg of the son Ethan has been impaled by a table leg. Soon Kenny arrives with help in a truck and Tabitha is successfully saved as well. However, Dr. Christie checks Ethan's leg and explains it'll take at least an hour to safely remove the table leg. There are only 40 minutes left before dark, so Boyd and Christie decide to stay in the RV overnight with a talisman. Boyd explains to the family that the woods are dangerous at night, so he only lets Jim stay for Ethan's sake and sends everyone else back to town. At the clinic, Sarah watches Toby as he wakes up and starts panicking. Sarah suddenly kisses him, calming him down before telling him that it isn't his fault. Then she stabs him in the neck, killing him. Afterward, Sarah starts talking to herself, saying there's something she must do and how she can't do it. Eventually she grabs a scalpel and puts it in Toby's mouth. On the road, the truck accidentally goes over the spike strip, so the locals drag Tabitha and Julie to the colony house on foot. It's raining heavily, so they keep slipping and falling, but eventually they make it. The people in the house raise the alarm and a guard doesn't want to let the group in, not believing they're human. As an argument ensues, the creatures start getting closer and Kenny opens fire to no avail. At that moment the leader of the house Donna arrives and lets them in, closing the door just in time. Then she orders for Tabitha and Julie to be tied up as per protocol. At the RV, Boyd blocks all the exits and hangs the talisman. Suddenly Ethan begins seizing and they hold him down while Jim says this never happened before. As night falls completely, Boyd peeks outside the window and sees dozens of creepy creatures surrounding them. Ethan stops seizing when they hear movement outside and a mysterious voice asks if they're okay. Jim thinks that the townspeople have returned and wants to let them in, but Boyd immediately restrains him and explains the voice isn't human. Once Jim calms down, Boyd explains that terrifying monsters that look human appear every night. They don't know what they are, but they know that the talismans prevent their entry into enclosed spaces. Moments later Donna approaches Tabitha and apologizes while cutting the ropes. Tabitha immediately tries to escape but is stopped by an armed guard. Donna sits her down and explains the situation with the creatures, explaining their methods are for the sake of safety. Tabitha calls her crazy and Donna laughs, asking Tabitha how many times she drove along the loop. Then Donna explains everyone here came from other places and got stuck. In fact, she's been in this town for 3.5 years and she can still remember her sister screaming when a monster killed her. Downstairs, Victor gets a snack and tells a tied Judy that 2 cars haven't been seen together in a long time, so he thinks it's special. As Julie begins to cry, Fatima arrives and shoos Victor away before untying Julie. Back at the RV, the voices outside keep talking and making weird noises. Jim asks Boyd for his gun, but Boyd explains bullets don't work on the creatures. When they hear footsteps on the roof, Christy and Jim start getting very nervous and rattled, so Boyd has to remind them that the creatures are good at playing with their heads. Once Ethan is under the effects of the sedative, the group works together and successfully pulls the table leg out of his leg, Then Christy quickly patches him up. Jim notices that the saline is kept in a mason jar and Christy explains they don't have many supplies, only what they took from an ambulance a few years ago. When Ethan wakes up, he says he saw a wall covered with dozens of drawings. In Colony House, Victor's room is adorned with exactly that as he draws the scene of the car crash. Meanwhile, Sarah showers off the blood in her home. When her brother Nathan comes looking for her and sees her bloodstained clothes, Sarah says that she didn't have a choice and asks for his help. In the clinic, the nurse checks on Toby and is shocked to find his body. At that moment she notices someone left the door open and the creatures are inside, so she runs to hide in the basement as the monsters rush in to attack. In the RV, Jim takes the talisman for a closer look and suddenly the creatures break in, but it turns out it's Christy having a nightmare. It's now morning and the townspeople have come back for them. In town, Sarah explains to Nathan that the voices asked her to make Toby look like the monsters because it was the only way to go home. She also reveals that she left the clinic door open. When Kenny goes to the clinic to visit his father, he sees the talisman on the ground and rushes inside, only to find the nurse's body in the basement. Then he walks further in and finds his father's torn apart body, causing him to have a breakdown. Boyd returns to his office and erases the sign to reset the incident count. In Colony House, Ethan is distracted by a vision of a boy in white outside the window, who shushes him. Later, when Ethan dares to wave, the boy in white waves back. In the meantime, Jade is still tied to a bed and keeps yelling, demanding to be released. Donna comes over and explains the situation, but Jade believes that it is all an elaborate escape room-like prank that Toby prepared for him and that the locals are paid actors. Then Jade runs outside and takes a random woman's bicycle to ride away. He makes it to the diner and loudly asks where the clues are before cutting in line to take food. Kenny's mother Tianchen hits him with a whisk and yells at him for his behavior. At Colony House, Father Khatri explains to Jim's family that all newcomers have to decide whether they want to live in Colony House or in the town, and offers to give them a tour of both, including the house that they would get. As they walk around, Tabitha asks him what the box-like structure near the sheriff's office is, so Khatri explains that those who break the rules are sentenced to a night in the box with no talisman and tonight will be the first time they're using it. The tour continues in the house that belonged to Lauren and Megan, which includes seeing the bloody room. Tabitha freaks out and runs outside, asking Jim how he can be so calm. Jim admits he can still hear the whispering outside the RV and doesn't want to end up like Lauren, so they need to make the best of it. Meanwhile, Boyd's son Ellis makes a crutch for Ethan to help him get around while he recovers. Ethan wanders around and finds Victor, who is measuring the amount of steps it takes to get from the house to the trees. Victor doesn't like Ethan asking questions, but he becomes friendly when the boy mentions the boy in white. Then Victor admits that he's checking to see if the trees moved. At that moment, Julie sees them and yells at Ethan to get back inside, asking her brother not to hang out with the creep. As Jade continues biking around, he finds the doors to a root cellar. He goes inside and finds a wooden door. When he opens it, he sees an old body crushed by a boulder, whose face suddenly starts shrieking. Jade gets frightened and falls, allowing him to see a symbol painted on the ceiling. Then he looks at the cabinet again but finds it empty. Jade calls Toby a genius, still thinking it's a prank. In the church, Boyd tells Khatri that he can't put Frank in the box, revealing that it was supposed to be a deterrent and not an actual punishment. However, Khatri points out that if Frank is absolved of his crimes after he had several public warnings, the rules won't carry any weight and the town will descend into chaos. On his way to his office, Boyd stops by the box and goes inside, trying to imagine what it must be like. Boyd then walks into Frank's cell and tosses a talisman on the bed, telling him that there's a small shack 100 yards beyond the tree line. He orders him to take the talisman and make whatever life he can there. Moments later, Khatri holds the choosing ceremony. He explains that if Jim's family wants to live in town they must grab a rock, but if they prefer Colony House, they must take a flower. The ceremony is interrupted by Boyd, who wants to talk about Frank in the box. However, Frank shows up and admits he failed his family. He returns the talisman and says he wants to reunite with his loved ones. Still believing that this is a performance, Jade begins clapping and laughing, so Boyd restrains him and makes him choose, thus Jade picks a rock. Then Kenny takes Jade away. When it's the family's turn, everyone picks living in town except Julie, who chooses the house. An argument ensues and the locals have to remind them the choice is final. At the graveyard, Kenny approaches an open grave and shows Jade Toby's mutilated face. Finally accepting the truth, Jade begins crying. Then Kenny takes him to his house so Jade can live with him and his mom. As the sun sets, Boyd and Khatri take Frank to the box, quickly leaving him alone. Soon the creatures approach the box and Boyd forces himself to watch from his window. The monsters break the box and attack Frank, killing him. A flashback shows a child Victor emerging from the root cellar and finding the area covered with dead bodies. In the present, Victor draws Julie in crayon while she sleeps. When she wakes up, Victor says he's starting to remember things and gifts her the drawing. Meanwhile, Boyd brings a cart full of wood to repair the box and finds Frank's body. He puts him in the cart and starts carrying him to the graveyard. Later, when he starts the repairs, he's approached by Khatri, who reminds him the incident wasn't his fault and that Boyd should stop punishing himself because his dead wife wouldn't approve. After Khatri leaves, Boyd notices his hands shaking. In the diner, the tabletop jukebox mysteriously turns on when Jim and Ethan enter. While they eat, Ethan says he'll pretend this place is adventure and admits he likes to think his dead brother is away on a quest. Jim is upset to hear this and goes to the bathroom to cry. At that moment Victor arrives and says the trees have moved 4 inches closer, which is bad. Then Victor shows Ethan a picture he drew of the boy in white and Ethan confirms it matches what he saw, so Victor concludes it's real. Jim comes out of the bathroom and yells at Victor, telling him to stay away from Ethan while shoving him out. In the meantime Tabitha visits Julie and asks her to live with her family. Julie gets angry and reveals she knew her parents wanted a divorce. The RV vacation had only been a distraction. When Tabitha admits she's right, Julie explains she's hurt that her mother is still thinking about her dead child instead of taking care of the 2 living ones and rushes back inside. At the sheriff's office, Kenny shows Jade the map of all the locations the inhabitants of the town were originally from before they became trapped. Jade declares that impossible and begins laughing, saying he won't rest until he figures the truth out. While Kenny tells him he'll lose his mind, Jade overhears the radio static and takes it with him as he leaves. At home, Tabitha finds Jim and tells him what happened with Julie, which triggers an argument about their relationship. Ethan overhears them from the kitchen but ignores them when he sees Victor out back. Victor tells him that they need to find the boy in white, saying the boy chose Ethan like he once chose Victor. Ethan asks if this is like a quest, and Victor agrees, giving him a walking stick because it's more fitting for a quest than a crutch. As they walk through the forest, Victor explains that boy in white first appeared years ago when 2 cars arrived on the same day. He also reveals that he's been in town longer than anyone else. At that moment Victor sees the boy in white passing by and the duo starts following him. Back in the house, Tabitha and Jim find the crutch and desperately start looking for their son. In the forest, Victor and Ethan come across a large tree with a hole in its trunk, which Victor calls a faraway tree. He grabs a rock and draws a face on it before throwing it into the hole, then the rock falls near them. Victor explains that it works for people too, but you never know where you'll end up. There are many more magical holes, but this one is new. Then Victor hears a dog barking and he freezes as he remembers seeing a dog near all the dead bodies as child. He has a breakdown but Ethan can't hear anything. At the same time, Jim and Tabitha enter the forest and find a dog that looks like the one in Victor's memories. Soon more dogs surround them, only to suddenly run away when Victor shoots the revolver he keeps in his lunchbox. Ethan reunites with his parents, who yell at Victor. However, Victor points the gun at Jim and promises he would never hurt Ethan before leaving. Later in his room, Victor looks through his drawings and finds one of the dog, remembering that he saw the boy in white the same day as the animal and the bodies. In his memory, young Victor followed the boy in white, who began playing on the merry-go-round outside Lauren's house. The boy in white waved at young Victor, who waved back. In the present, Victor puts the drawings on the wall before going outside to start digging a bunch of graves, saying he's just trying to get a head start this time. Later at the diner, Sarah watches Jim's family when suddenly she becomes agitated and sees the words "kill the boy" on her arm. In a second they vanish and Sarah collapses as she has a seizure. Soon Sarah is taken to the clinic and Christy says she should stay the night. Sarah agrees but wants to be alone, so she asks Christy not to allow Nathan in. When Boyd comes by to check on Sarah, he wonders if her and Ethan's seizures are physical reactions to the town. Christy notices Boyd's hands are shaking too. On his way out, Boyd sees Nathan and has to stop him from getting in the clinic, promising everything's fine. Nathan goes home and stares at Sarah's bloody clothes, wondering what to do. At home, Jim tells his family that they should try to figure out the mysteries of the town by writing all the questions they have on the wall, beginning with "Where are we?" That night Sarah walks around the clinic and sees the words on her arm again, so she considers taking a scalpel. Christy finds her before she can act and they spend the night chatting. The next day, Jade wanders around town muttering to himself while carrying a radio. Trudy asks him what he's doing, so Jade explains that the radio helps him think. At Tabitha's house, Sarah comes by to visit Ethan and they play on the merry-go-round. Tabitha watches them from the window and tells Jim that Ethan is finally himself again. Then Sarah offers to show Ethan the animals at the barn and Tabitha comes along. Outside of town, Boyd visits his wife's grave and tells her he's getting tremors like his father, meaning he doesn't have much time left. He also admits he has a crazy idea that might get everyone home, but if he fails it'll leave everyone even worse. Boyd wishes his wife would send him a sign to decide what to do. Meanwhile Nathan finds Khatri and asks what the rules are regarding confession. Khatri promises that anything he says will stay between them and God. Nathan tells him everything and when Khatri freaks out, Nathan reminds him of the confession rules. Khatri promises he won't say anything but they need to keep Sarah away from people. At the barn, Sarah introduces Tabitha and Ethan to the goat while sharing that before they had talismans, the locals used hiding places. Sarah thinks that it's useful to know about them just in case and offers to show Tabitha one. They enter the barn and Sarah opens a door at the back. When Tabitha walks towards it, Sarah pushes her in and locks the door. Then Sarah approaches Ethan and tells him that what is about to happen will save everyone. A terrified Ethan steps away and Sarah grabs him, but at that moment Nathan shows up to stop her. Sarah snaps and says this is how they go home, so Nathan grabs her from behind. As Sarah struggles in his hold, she accidentally slashes Nathan's throat with the scalpel, causing her to break down just as Khatri arrives. Ethan uses the chance to run away and finds his sister. Soon a bunch of townspeople come and find Nathan's body. Khatri explains that he was too late and Sarah ran off into the woods. Boyd says the monster can have her and Jim yells at them because this isn't the town being a big family like they promised. Later at home, Tabitha writes, "Did we survive the crash on the wall?" At the diner, Boyd chats with Christy when suddenly the tabletop jukebox begins playing his wife's favorite song. Boyd says this is the sign he's been waiting for. While Kenny and Boyd bury Nathan, Jade goes through town gathering equipment for the radio from various cars. At the Colony house, Julie is surprised to see an abandoned bouquet of flowers on the porch. At church, Khatri goes down into the basement, revealing he's keeping Sarah tied to a chair. After removing her gag, he tells her that the Bible is composed of 73 books and that since he arrived to this town, he's wondered if the locals were chosen to live through the unwritten 74th book. To know the reason behind this, he needs to know what the voices told Sarah. She says that the voices had been in the town for a long time, waiting for someone who could help them escape. Sarah believed them because they told her things that they couldn't know, like predicting the 2 cars before they arrived. They also told her that if she did as they said, the locals could go home too. They promised her Nathan would be fine though, so she cries because she doesn't know if she can trust them anymore. Khatri concludes that if the voices are real, it means that the town is communicating with her and they must find a way to prove it. The locals won't think Sarah is crazy. Suddenly Sarah cries out in pain and shouts no before asking for a piece of paper because the voices want her to show him something. As she begs the voices to stop, she desperately makes a drawing and gives it to Khatri, explaining that the voices saw him bury a bag when he arrived. Khatri is shocked to hear this and seeing the drawing, he rushes out of town to dig out a certain bag. He finds a bottle of alcohol, bloody clothes, and a chocolate bar with the same logo that Sarah made. As finishing digging the grave, Boyd tells Kenny that he feels that things are changing. He points out that the talismans can work in the RV, so he wants to explore the forest and try to find a way out. Kenny thinks Boyd is simply going to his death. At home, Jim examines the cords in a lamp and sees there's no wire. He's noticed that their outlets are fake too, yet all lights work. At that moment Jade bursts in and says he's noticed the lack of wires too, so he has an idea. Jim agrees to help and they stop at Jade's car to take all its wires. Then they approach a very tall tree, where they start installing an antenna for the radio. Jade admits he can't climb because of his vertigo, so Jim does it instead. As Jim makes his way up, Jade touches the tree and is shocked to find blood. Suddenly he discovers a bunch of dismembered corpses dressed in Civil War uniforms and the strange symbol carved on the trunk. Then Jade turns around and notices a soldier aiming at him, so he runs off as he hears the shots. The soldier chases after him and when Jade falls, the soldier attacks. Jade starts having a panic attack only for Jim to show up, revealing everything was a hallucination. Jade angrily pushes him away and leaves. Jim returns to the tree and tries the radio, managing to get some kind of signal but it's only static. At the diner, Tabitha and Ethan bring the things that used to belong to Frank's family and Tianchen takes them to the storage area. There Tabitha notices a particular bracelet and steals it. Later at home, they notice a lamp is flickering and they wonder why, so Tabitha announces they're going on an adventure to discover where the light comes from. After unplugging the lamp and moving the furniture, Tabitha begins hammering into the wall. Later Jim goes to the diner and obsessively draws the symbol he saw on the tree. When Tianchen sees this, she goes to the storage room and grabs a journal whose pages are covered in the same symbol. Meanwhile Boyd asks Kenny to play catch and finally confesses that he has Parkinson's disease. Eventually he won't be able to protect the townspeople, so he wants to find a way out while he still can. He needs Kenny to be a good leader and take over his role. In the afternoon, Jim returns home and finds the hole in the wall. Ethan comes out of the basement with a bucket of dirt, so Jim goes there for an explanation. Tabitha is digging a hole in the basement floor to find the source of the electricity, pointing out that the cords lead straight down. She also shows him the bracelet and says it's the one she made for him out of the laces from his father's boots years ago. Jim thinks it's just a look-alike, but Tabitha points at the same mistake she made on it. Noticing it too, Jim asks for a shovel to help. In the middle of the night, Kevin walks through Colony House while everyone is asleep. He goes upstairs and looks through the window, where a creature that looks like a beautiful woman called Jasmine thanks him for the flowers and asks him when she can come in. The next day in Colony House, the residents hang decorations for a party. Out on the porch, Kevin leaves a new bouquet of flowers. At the office, Khatri tells Boyd they need to talk in private and notices that Boyd is preparing to leave. Khatri shows him his bag and tells him what happened to him before he came here. Back in his hometown, a boy asked Khatri if he could stay the night in church, but Khatri gave him a candy bar and sent him back to his parents. Later, Khatri went to check on him and found the drunk father murdering the boy. Feeling guilty, Khatri beat the man up to death then ran away with the boy's bar. He got drunk and considered self-deleting, But he heard God's voice and got in the car, only to end up here. Then Khatri finally confesses he is Sarah and shares all the things she said. Furious, Boyd aims his gun at him, so Khatri desperately tells him that Sarah may be the answer to go home. Khatri uses the drawing and the chocolate bar as proof she may be useful, so he and Sarah should go with Boyd on his trip. At Kenny's, Jade continues to stare at the journal with the symbols and notices that 2 of the pages are stuck together. He tears them apart and a Polaroid photo falls out. The picture is of a random man with the journal, and Tianchen points out that a young Victor is in the corner with his lunchbox. At Colony House, the party is in full swing and Ellis is getting drunk. Julie notices a girl kissing Fatima and afterwards she asks for an explanation, since Fatima is dating Ellis. Fatima explains that Ellis is her boyfriend, but she fools around with girls. A nervous Julie asks if she could kiss Fatima too, only to run away in panic. She hides in Victor's room and notices he's packing. While everyone is distracted, Kevin goes upstairs to check on Jasmine, who says she must leave him if he won't let her come in. Kevin tries to explain the rules, but Jasmine manipulates him with sweet words and promises no other creature will follow her. Eventually Kevin gives in and uses a crowbar to start removing the nails on the window, finally opening it. Jasmine comes inside and after closing the window again, they start to kiss. However, Jasmine scratches him with her claws and bites his tongue off before attacking him further. Downstairs, a drunk Dale theorizes that they're in a pocket universe. An annoyed Ellis begins to pick a fight with him and Fatima tries to calm him down, but Dale says Ellis is as crazy as his mother, which makes Ellis angrier. Thankfully Donna arrives and immediately stops them from getting violent. Ellis leaves to hide in his room and Dale insults him again, so Donna punches him. Back to Jasmine, she washes off the blood and opens the window so more creatures can come in. At that moment Trudy hears noises and enters the room, only for 3 creatures to surround her. They call her by her name, saying they know all the names before they attack her. Minutes later, Dale gets distracted by blood dripping on him. He looks up and sees a creature smiling down at him covered in blood. People scream and begin to panic as someone rings the alarm. Victor hears this, so he prepares a rope on his window before giving Julie his lunchbox, then both of them climb out of the house. Once they reach the ground, Victor sees the boy in white and leads Julie into the forest. As the creatures start chasing and killing humans, Donna leads people into the van and realizes that Ellis and Julie are missing. Fatima tells her to take the others away while she does the search, so Donna leaves with the survivors. Inside the house, Ellis sneaks through the halls, avoiding the wandering creatures. He sees someone on the ground and enters the room to find Trudy's body. A creature then finds him, so Ellis breaks the window, climbs onto the porch roof and jumps off, breaking his arm. Fatima finds him and helps him back inside, closing the doors to the foyer because there's a talisman is there. The creatures pound on the door and taunt her, but they don't come in. In the forest, Victor leads Julie to a faraway tree and tells her to get inside, asking her to warn Ethan that it is starting. Julie climbs inside the tree and is shocked to appear in the root cellar. Soon the van makes it to the sheriff's office. Boyd and Khatri run to help the locals get inside, but Khatri gets stuck at the back and a creature reaches him, severely wounding him. Boyd shoots the creature to distract it and drags Khatri inside, where they pray together as the father dies. The next morning, Boyd goes to the church basement to see Sarah and he takes her to the forest. They find a wooden shack and Boyd tells Sarah to stay there while he wraps things up in town before they leave to find a way home. A flashback then shows Boyd's arrival. Ellis, Boyd, and his wife Abby were on a trip when they found the road blocked by the tree and the crows. Eventually they reached the town and saw the words "Save Us" painted on a door. They didn't see any people until Khatri ran in front of the car, telling them they were in danger. At that moment they heard an inhuman screech, so the family followed Khatri to hide in an underground spot. They heard footsteps and screams up above as the creatures killed people. The next morning they came out and found bodies all over the place. At the dinner Khatri explained everything, and as a former soldier, Boyd was shocked that their solution was to hide every night. He explained that they needed to start working together and taking care of each other. Boyd immediately organized their supplies to be rationed and Abby made a hiding system to be constantly rotating. Later Boyd also decided to scavenge the forest for resources. While he was busy, Ellis noticed that Abby became very cold and distant, always talking about dreams from her childhood. Eventually Boyd returned to town with a goat, revealing there were random animals in the forest. Ellis called his father out, saying he wasn't taking care of his wife, but Boyd thought a former Marine like Abby could take care of herself. Afterward Boyd went back to the forest, marking trees so he could remember his path. Suddenly he found a dog and tried to follow it, only to get lost. When night fell, Boyd started to run to avoid the creatures. He came across a cave and hid inside, noticing that the monsters didn't follow him there. When he looked around, he saw the talismans on the walls. He grabbed them all and in the morning he ran back to town, only to hear gunshots. To his shock, he found Abby shooting randomly into the crowd. She said that they were in a nightmare and the only way to escape was to wake up. At that moment Ellis showed up and Abby turned her gun on him, so Boyd shot her first to save his son. In the present, Julie reunites with her family only to be interrupted by Jade, so Jim pushes him outside and tells him about the static he picked up. He thinks if they get the radio above the tree line, it might get a signal. They go to see Donna and get permission to build a tower on top of the colony house. Boyd returns to town and finds a crowd arguing with Tianchen, who is barring them from entering the diner. Apparently the colony house people are using up their supplies. Boyd yells at everyone for behaving like animals and sends them home, reminding them to cooperate. Afterward Boyd goes to the clinic to say goodbye to Ellis with words full of love and pride, but Ellis only answers okay. After Boyd leaves, Fatima reminds Ellis that what happened wasn't Boyd's fault and Ellis is being unfair. Moments later in the forest, Ellis catches up to Boyd. The men apologize to each other and reconcile. After Ellis leaves, Boyd handcuffs Sarah before they start their journey. In town, Kenny gives a speech to the assembled people, proving he's a good leader. He announces there will be no more division between the town and colony house, only cooperation. Donna shows her support before Jim tells everyone about the radio tower idea. They'll need batteries and people to build the radio tower, and people are eager to help. That night many people stay in the sheriff's office and Donna draws a 1 on the incident sign. Unfortunately the next morning she discovers one of the locals self-deleted out of depression. At home, Tabitha is done digging for the day and climbs the stairs, only to have a vision that changes between walking through the main street and ascending a tower. She hears a ship's horn and finds several objects on the ground like Ethan's toys. Tabitha then hears the sound of a phone ringing and a baby crying, so she tells Jim to get the kids because something is wrong. As she grows more nervous, she notices the wall above her is inscribed with various years. She looks up and sees Jim dangling from the ceiling. Suddenly his mouth opens but the sound of a horn comes out, showing the RV crash before Tabitha wakes up in her bed. Later she helps the kids figure out Victor's drawings and Ethan says they should find the right order to make a story. However, when Tabitha finds a drawing of the mutilated bodies, she asks them to stop. Meanwhile Boyd and Sarah continue their trip through the woods by following the marks Boyd left when he was younger. When they find the Talisman Cave, they spend the night there. The next day, Boyd asks about the voices, so Sarah explains that they told her that 2 cars were coming and if she didn't follow their orders everyone else would die. As Sarah breaks down, Boyd releases her from the handcuffs. Moments later they hear some clinking and follow the noise to find a tree with tons of bottles hanging on its branches. As Boyd tries to knock a bottle down, Sarah begins screaming in pain and has a seizure, so Boyd tries his best to assist her. At Colony House, Jim leads the work on building the radio tower while Jade works on a power source. The problem is that there's no way to charge the batteries without quickly draining other resources. Inside, Kenny tells Donna that they'll need wood from the barn to build the tower. This makes Donna snap and she rushes to find an axe to start destroying the floorboards. Kenny and Jim tell her to stop, and Kenny says they need Colony House standing. Donna replies that they don't need it anymore because the radio tower will get them home, adding that is no longer a home but a tomb. At Kenny's, Jade constantly complains about the situation. Tianchen loses patience and scolds him before pointing out that if he needs power, it's on the bulbs. This gives Jade an idea. At Jim's, the family keeps on digging and doesn't notice the lights flickering. Suddenly Tabitha stops because she thinks they hit the bottom, so she goes to the local tool shed to get a pickaxe. In the forest, Sarah wakes up and discovers Boyd has set up camp with a talisman hanging in their tent. Boyd reveals that he was able to get one of the bottles down, but it only contains a piece of paper that says 1864. Sarah says they should go back to town, explaining that the voice she heard this time was a new woman who told them that there are worse things than the creatures. This voice kept repeating "Tell Mr. Fish and Loaves that I was wrong," which leaves Boyd in shock. At that moment weird noises start echoing around the tent, which suddenly begins shaking violently. After a few minutes of this it just stops and Boyd hurries to rehang the talisman. They then hear a loud horn and flashes of light appear outside the tent. Once it stops, Boyd comes out and discovers the area covered in spiderwebs. The duo decides to travel in the direction of last night's lights. As they walk, Sarah asks who Mr. Fish and Loaves is. Boyd answers it was his nickname in the army and gets mad when Sarah implies the voice could have been a warning from Abby. At that moment Boyd hears a woman calling for help, but Sarah can't. Boyd runs deeper into the forest and finds Abby trapped in a web, but this is a trap for an apparition to suddenly grab him. Then Boyd gets covered by spiders and starts getting bitten as he stumbles away from the trap. Sarah helps him remove the creatures and Boyd is now safe, so he insists on traveling. However, he soon starts to mentally deteriorate, believing that there's no way out nor hope, and he collapses. Sarah helps him back onto his feet and urges him to continue because she can see a storm approaching. Suddenly they hear the horn again and it starts to rain. They struggle to reach the top of the hill but eventually discover that the source of the light and the noise is a lighthouse. Back to Jim's family, they're visited by Jade, who brings them a solution to their problem. He puts a hair dryer plug between a lamp and the bulb, which causes it to turn on. This means they can harness electricity through the lamps and power the radio tower. Soon Jim and Jade gather the locals at the diner and ask them to get tons of conducting wire. Before they know it, the finishing touches are made to the radio tower and the locals come together to hoist it on the roof. Once the tower is standing, Jim turns it on and discovers they have a signal, so everyone celebrates until they notice the horrible storm coming. As the wind picks up, people either go home or gather umbrellas. Jim keeps on trying different radio frequencies until he hears a voice that knows his name and warns him that Tabitha shouldn't be digging that hole. After Jim runs to his wife, the light bulbs powering the radio tower explode. In the basement, Tabitha keeps on digging until the floor collapses. She lands in a cave and is found by Victor, who says that the boy in white told him she would come and he had to wait for her. Tremors begin shaking the house and Victor says that it isn't safe because the creatures sleep in these tunnels, showing her the cave paintings that they make. As Victor drags Tabitha off, Jim arrives and finds that the main floor has caved in. In the forest, Boyd collapses from the pain and the boy in white appears for Sarah, telling her that this place is angry now. He wants them to get to safety, so he sends them down a faraway tree. Boyd gets in first and is transported to the bottom of a dry well. In town, the diner's jukebox turns on as a bus arrives. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.